Welcome to Liner Notes. My name is David Bixler. What happens when you go off the grid to find your sound? For saxophonist Caroline Davis, the answer is Fallows. Her first solo release, which was conceived during a month-long residency at Ucross, Wyoming. During this time, Davis stripped away the self to make room for pure creation. The album is the result of a deliberate unbecoming, a period where Davis set aside the expectations of daily life to let the landscape speak through her horn. All right, so you have a new record, Fallows, out March 27th on Rope-A-Dope. Reading in the notes about this is your first solo excursion, and it's quite a fascinating record. I really enjoyed listening to it. Very introspective in sussing out what you have said in the notes. There's a lot that went into this, so I'm sure listeners are going to really be curious as to the process. So, first of all, congratulations on the record and welcome to
Thanks.
Liner Notes. Thank you for your time today. Definitely.
Thanks for having me. I'm really, really excited to talk to you and talk about this music. It's an honor to be here talking to you,
Cool.
David.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thank you. So you were 4 weeks in a residency, I don't know, in Montana, in Wyoming, in the Badlands someplace. Yeah, where were you? And when was this in relationship to this music coming out now?
So last year in 2025, I was fortunate enough to get a residency at the Ucross Foundation. So this is a foundation based in Wyoming. The center there is based in this very small town that I believe with a population of maybe 30 people or something. I think technically on the sign it says like 28 or something. And so it's on this, I think it's 20,000 acre ranch that this gentleman, Raymond Plank, who has an interesting business background, tied up in, I believe, the oil business, and then just kind of smart ways of investing, and then had a lot of friends in the industry, including some people who were involved with some scandals, but he wasn't involved apparently. But at this point, he's been really graciously offering his money up to artist residents who come once a year in spit times of 2 weeks, 4 weeks, or 6 weeks to work on their music or visual art or poetry, or some journalists are there, sculptors and multimedia artists and musicians. And there's two cabins for musicians, like pretty far apart from each other. And it's just open farmland. The closest town is to the northwest, and it's called Sheridan, Wyoming, and that's where you fly into. And there's only flights from Denver in this tiny airport. And it's like the kind of airport where you get off the plane and you're walking on the tarmac to get to the get your bags, the little tiny house to get your bags. But yeah, it's in the like northeast part of Wyoming, which is kind of, I haven't really known a lot of things to be happening over there. Or I guess my more familiar, I'm more familiar with like Cheyenne because it's closer to where Colorado is, the southeast part of the state, or in the northwest, which is where Yellowstone is, and I haven't been able to go there yet, but just like over there, or the Teton National Forest, which is also on the western side of Wyoming. And then there's like several well, there's at least one very big reservation there in the center of the state called Wind River Reservation. Um, and the Crow Reservation is in Montana, but it's across the state line. And yeah, I wish we didn't call them reservations, but it's like I wish there was a better word for it, because it's like these native nations have been living there forever, and we use this weird word to describe what it is, but it's this very beautiful land that our native people live on. So that's a big part of the community.
No doubt. It's interesting when I was reading, I envisioned that maybe you were like in this isolated cabin for a month by yourself, but it sounds like there's community there. So maybe you take meals together, or, can hang
Yeah.
out like when you're
Yeah.
done doing your thing. Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
we have dinners together, mostly, and that's always a beautiful experience. It's like
Sure.
12 people at once, and it's so undeniably beautiful to talk to people who are working on their creative projects, and that can range from novels to short poems or books of poetry. And there was a woman there using different parts of mulch and grass from the land to make paper. She's the person who did the artwork for this record. Her name is,
Oh,
Tulu.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Tulu Bayer is her name, and she's Turkish, but she's just a fantastic artist, and got to know her a bit. And then you can do whatever you want, you could just come and rest. And I really encourage a lot of artists to take that time. It's just so important for us to remember what we do,
Yeah.
even if we're not making that much money doing it.
Right. No, for sure. And it's really encouraging to hear this guy that probably made gobs of money in oil, like, turning it around. It probably doesn't cost him that much. That really makes a difference in an artist's life. So congratulations. That is super cool. Now, let me ask you, Fallows. And so this is like land that's, like leftover rest. My mom's side of the family are farmers. So, you would, let land go for a season. But did you go out there with an agenda, or was like once you got out there, did your focus change when you saw what was around you, and that kind of evoked the music that you were imagining?
Yeah, it is very vast land where you can't see that. You could see everything, because naturally on that land there's not very many trees, although this gentleman Raymond Plank and some of his team, they planted some trees there on that specific land, so there are trees at the Ucross land. But otherwise, when you go hiking in the area, everything is really like no trees, and you can see pretty far. And so yeah, fallow is like land for crops that's lying idle there, so that it can sort of rejuvenate itself and like go through a cycle of its own rest. And I feel like we all as artists could have that, and I felt that last year was a bit of that process for me of resting more. And I did two residencies last year. The one at Ucross, and then I did this one in Italy called Civitella, and that was 6 weeks, so that was longer. And so there was a lot of resting and a lot of just taking my time and reading books and laying on the couch. And I feel like I'm kind of a
It
constant.
sounds great.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly working most of my
Sure.
time, and
Yeah, of
it just
course.
never stops, probably like you. And
Yeah.
so it was nice to just get, enjoy that time of like letting myself be a little idle, so that I could rejuvenate a sense of character of who I am. And this word came to mind. And also I think I saw somewhere that this word fallow can also mean like a certain color of like reddish brown. It's not as
Oh,
used as much in that sense, but
okay.
I thought that to be interesting in the sense that Tulu's artwork is in this kind of reddish brown, you know, color palette on the artwork. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Very cool. Ed, you've been playing solo saxophone. Yeah, I was like poking around your website. You have some solo concerts coming up. Are they as a result of this new project, or have you been doing this for some time, and this is the first time that you've documented yourself in this capacity?
Yeah, so over the past couple years, I've been doing at least 2 tours a year. And most of them are like, 7 days. So maybe like, I think last year 2024, I believe I did like 40 dates of playing solo, which is a lot. So I wanted to document all of the things that I've been exploring on the road. And a lot of people were asking, do you have a solo record? And I was like, no. So let me do this. And I wanted to really slowly over the period of these 4 weeks, I really wanted to improvise and find some new palettes in my setup. And I use this processing unit called the organelle. It's made by Critter and Guitari, and it works on like a microchip, and there's patches inside of the microchip that are similar to Max MSP, but it runs on Pure Data, which is a software where you can basically design patches. And the community around the organelle is really generous. So a lot of people are sharing their patches, and their patches work really well and I'm not naturally a programmer. So I've tried to do my own patches, and I have like basic patches that do basic things, but these other ones that do a lot more, like LFO patch, I love to use that, and someone developed that and put it up for free. And then there's like a reverse delay patch that I use that someone developed, and I use that all the time. And there's a multi-effects patch that someone develops with like distortion and different types of delay and all these other things, and I use those patches. And there's a really active forum, and I love the fact that the organelle and everything around it is open source, so it's free, and it's really just like a community of people. I'm super into accessibility and making things available to people.
That's very generous. That's good to hear. Very cool. Yeah. So like when you do one of these concerts, will you be playing, pieces from like how composed are the works on this recording as opposed to improvised?
Yeah, I am gonna play a good majority of the pieces on the record. Some of them, the ones that have more harmonic, there's like some stacked saxophone ones that are harder for me, and trying to figure out if I could do this live, because I would, but it would take it'll take like a couple harmonizer pedals, or I could use this patch that I have on the organelle that allows me to play. If I'm playing directly into it, it allows me to play chords, but I have to be playing with my hands. So I would have to figure out, like, maybe I just play a C sharp the whole time on the saxophone, so I don't have to use my hands, and I could use the hands in that way. Or I could figure out how to use like several harmonizer pedals in the way that I want. But there's some people doing some really amazing stuff out there with horns. I saw a trumpet player, I don't remember his name, but he was using a device on the side of the trumpet, and he was kind of flipping between these different harmonizations that he wanted to explore. And also a good friend, Tavon Pennicott, he's been doing that too with I believe he's using like a foot pedal for that, and switching between these different kinds of harmonizations. And that's really inspiring. So I'm trying to figure all that out right now. But yeah, mostly I'm going to be playing these pieces. And then I usually leave a lot of space for improvising, and seeing what happens. There's a lot of free improvisation, but then I have some drum beats that I've programmed ahead of time that I use in the setup, and then there's looping, obviously, and I really love rhythm and pulse. So there's a lot of that for me.
Well, as a musician, that's good that you enjoy those things. Yes. So with the concerts, I just know this recording has 12 tracks, and they're all on the pithy side. Would your concert also be like that, or do you kind of stretch out more, or just maybe no agenda? Here I start and I'll end when the music tells me to stop.
Oh
Is
yeah.
it that kind of vibe, or?
Yeah, I usually kind of go from song to song and try to cleave, like do like a crossfade and from one song to the next.
Okay.
And so the music is kind of going all throughout, but then there's like, maybe there will be moments of texture where it would just be sort of a glassy texture while I prepare for the next piece. And I do a couple pieces in the solo set, just fully acoustic saxophone. And one of them, so I utilize a lot of these like poly pulses that I was looking into in the pandemic, and I'm doing that on the set, which is all acoustic. And then I also am really into I love prepared piano, but I've been starting to figure out how to prepare the saxophone in certain ways. So I've been using like an aluminum can in the bell, which I do on the record, to explore the sound that can be offered in these weird ways of like, what does it sound like to drag an aluminum can on the side of the saxophone? More of a cinematic approach to like what kinds of sounds can I imagine this instrument making that other people haven't imagined beyond the pitch of the saxophone and like pitch and rhythm and all these other normal musical things. But
Yeah,
what
right.
about texture and environment and involving water and like another device that's putting that in the bell, and how to prepare the saxophone in certain ways? Because we don't really do a lot of that with our instrument. We do more of that with the piano and other like string instruments. We do prepare string instruments too.
Right. Yeah. Wanted to jump into some of the music. A couple that I really loved, they seem to be kind of coupled together were bongos, and I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, knock.
Knock. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, kind of had like maybe like a Hocket vibe. I thought those were just beautiful.
Thank you.
That's cool. Are you playing though? You're not playing that at one time. It doesn't sound like you
Yeah.
were.
No, I'm not on the recording.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
kind of
It
wanted,
sounds like two people. Yeah.
yeah, I
Okay.
wanted that sort of effect. But when I play that live, I play the parts just back and forth. And then I use like a freezer pedal if I want one of the notes to last longer. And so that's kind of how that works, or just like a simple reverb so that some of the notes can last a little bit longer, but I'll just play both of those parts live. But I remember I was
Yeah.
just in the process over the past couple weeks and into when I start this tour in March. I've been memorizing all of that stuff because I wrote those two pieces. Those are like written. And so I'm just memorizing that music, which is it's so hard to memorize music. So I'm trying, yeah, and that music too. It's like, well, this is complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing that I kind of noticed is that like you have a lot of like nature sounds, and it looks like you recorded your environment when you were in Wyoming.
Yeah.
And but and then some of the patches or some of the electronics that you're playing over are, a lot of them are gentle and very atmospheric, but there's some that are like really in your face, like the Holocene
Yeah.
piece, like like when the beat starts. I mean, it's really a different character. Is there like a message in that?
Mm-hmm.
Or, is it just what you're hearing? Maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Oh yeah. I mean, the saxophone can have such a range of expression, and I don't know. I think especially in this day and age where there's all of this stuff going on that's pretty angering and frustrating. I sometimes take that stuff out in the music, and it's just like, yeah. I think it's really okay and great. I love hearing people kind of go into um aggression and anger and noise. I love noise music. I love listening to noise, and I love listening to different kinds of textures. Sometimes I'll just listen to white noise or pink noise or these different aspects of what we know to be noise that could enhance the hearing apparatus. Because, like constant New York environment can be really harsh on the ears. And so what can you do to offer a different state of listening to music where it's going to engage this other part of your ear? And so I find like that piece, I'm using a lot of multiphonics. I really love playing multiphonics, and so there's a lot of that on there. And that's also an aggressive way of playing the saxophone. And there's a distortion pedal on the drum beat on that track. Um, and yeah, the Holocene is like this interval that we're living in right now of Earth's history that began like 12,000 years ago and continues like now. So it really is a play on like I'm really angry about what's happening right now in my life, and I'm commenting on that in that
That's what
piece.
I assumed, but I I didn't want to take it for granted and wanted to have clarity on that. So,
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Mhm.
That was nice. You also pay homage to two iconic musicians, Steve Lacy and Jerry Allen, and the let's maybe because going in order here, the ninth track is named Lacy Steve. And in this one, there are a lot of the extended techniques that you're talking about. So, did you know him, or just a fan, or want to talk about your relationship musically with him?
Yeah, no, I didn't know him, and I was really sad when he passed away because I really wanted to reach out eventually and talk to him because I had some friends in Chicago where I was living at the time. Like Jamie Branch, she was able to study with him at NEC. So I feel like I kind of learned from other people at certain points about him, but he's definitely my, on the top 10, top, maybe probably top 5 of my favorite saxophone players. I just love his tone and the way he can get all these different textures out of the horn, like out of the soprano saxophone, which is not a very pleasing saxophone to listen to of all of them. And he just, wow, his solo record, the Monk solo record, has been tremendously influential to me. Um, and he had his own music. He has his own solo records too, and those records really influenced that particular track. The way in which he has played with there's there's tracks on those records where he'll play with himself. Like he's in the background and he's kind of over here and then he's over here and there's like layers of him. And that really the melody that I wrote for that or that I improvised for that, he was really in my mind, very forefront in my mind. Um, and there's so many solo records, also live solo records. There's a record from Kyoto that is so insane from like 75 or 77 or something like that.
I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, and he's wow. And later solo records too from the 80s, 1985. There's a Lacy solo that he recorded and put out. I think he put it out in the 90s. It came out in the 90s. And I don't know, he really, and he played with some of my favorite artists too, Joel Leandra, who's a wonderful French bassist, and just Bill Dixon. I don't know, he's played with so many incredible musicians that record with Elvin Jones, the Monk music, quartet with Monk's music, Mal Waldron, a ton of records with Mal Waldron. Yeah, what an influential person.
Do you play any soprano yourself?
I have one and I've played it a bit, and I was for a second playing in this really awesome quartet with Sam Newsom, who's also one of my favorite saxophonists. And
Well, when you were talking about doing things to the horn, I immediately thought about Sam.
yeah,
He
Sam
does some
is
crazy
yeah,
things,
he's
man.
amazing. So we were doing that in that band. We played maybe like 4 shows, and I wish we
Uh-huh.
would continue at some point, but we all played soprano, and we
Oof.
were doing the balloons, and we did these wind chimes, and it was amazing. And
Yeah, I'm
also
sure it was.
the tubes that he affixed to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mouthpiece, like, oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Sam's a huge influence on me, and his writing has been really influential to me as well. Yeah, I love him. So yeah, I played in that group, and then sometimes I'll play it in large ensembles, but I don't play it very often. But
Okay. All
I
right.
have one of those Yamaha Purple Label
Okay.
horns from the
All right.
70s. Yeah, I found one online, and it was somebody in Japan had it, so they sent me that, and there was some chopsticks in the case, which I thought was really cute.
Bonus.
Yeah.
Nice. And then Jerry Allen.
Yeah, Jerry was a teacher of mine through that program that, remember IAJE?
Yeah.
Yeah, IAJE used to have a program called Sisters in Jazz, and they
Yeah,
still,
of course. Yep. Yep.
now it's still happening, but it's under Jen and the
Uh-huh.
Jazz Education Network.
Right.
Um, and Jerry was the mentor for the year that I did the Sisters in Jazz program in 2006. And she was teaching at the University of Michigan at the time. And so Ellen Rowe was also a part of that
Mm-hmm.
system as well. And of course, she has a long lineage of being involved with educational institutions. Like when she went to Howard University, and she studied with Kenny Barron here, and the University of Pittsburgh, being the jazz director there. After she got a degree there in ethnomusicology, and then she was, of course, in New York playing with all these people. And I don't know, Jerry's like one of my biggest influences, and
Yeah.
she was the person who told me that I could compose music. Like I wrote a couple pieces, and I said, I don't know if I can do this, and she's like, you can do this. Like you have something. You gotta go keep doing this thing. And so she really, I wouldn't have continued without her encouragement.
Yeah. Yeah. I really, I didn't know, I learned a lot, in doing some fact checking on your information here, but I didn't know Barbara Allen as a tune, it was traditional. I figured maybe this is her middle name or something.
Mm-hmm.
But that, track, it seems like it has a different vibe, for you. You're just kind of playing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, it's super cool.
That's really an homage to her, because she had this record that came out in 2016 with Terry Lynn Carrington and David Murray, and they
Whoa.
play yeah, that record's called Perfection. It's on Motima, the record label, and they play that song on that record, and that's a wonderful piece of music. And when I finished this recording, I sent that recording to Terry Lynn, because I was like, what do you think about this? It's really Jerry's arrangement of that piece, because that's an old folk song that was written in like the 1500s or something. And there's
Wow.
there's a
Okay.
million recordings of that. Bob Dylan, there's all these folk musicians that recorded that song. And basically it's about this woman. Well, it's about a guy who's on his deathbed, and he calls for this woman, and he wants her to come to the deathbed, and he's like, I'm in love with you. I've always been in love with you. I want, I want to die knowing that you know that I love you. And she was like, you were really mean to me this one time at the bar. And so she's like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I'm sorry you're dying, but like this, whatever. And then she somehow dies in some kind of freak accident. And then they're buried. So he obviously passes away. And then she dies not too long after that. And then they're buried in the same cemetery. And they're out of their graves grow these flowers, and they're forever intertwined. It's like such an amazing story, but it has a lot of drama in it. So the instrumental version, like, Jerry Allen wrote these different chord changes underneath, and
Yeah.
I really love, and it's really just her. It's exactly from her, so it's really a transcription of her arrangement.
Yeah. Nice arrangement and great playing on that one.
Thank you.
So, you spoke about being involved with this program, being mentored by Jerry Allen. You teach also, and maybe just quickly, a little bit, where are you, and institution wise, are you like affiliated with Sisters in Jazz at Gen now, or anything like that?
I'm not. I mean, I hope to in the future. That would be great.
Okay.
But mostly I am teaching at the New School with my colleague, Sarah Elizabeth Charles. She started a program to have a course, and now we have 2 courses on the sort of combination of jazz and Black American music and creative music, and the ideas of gender expression. So we call it Jazz and Gender. And then we have another course called New Narratives for the master students there. And we teach together So we have this course that offers a lot, like basically historical redrawing the history of the music from the perspective of people who are undersung due to their gender expression or sexual orientation. And then we have like journal time so people can express themselves. And then we also we have playing days. So we teach them songs by ear. Like we'll teach them Strutting with Some Barbecue by ear, which is written by Lil Hardin Armstrong, that's more of a Terry Lynn Carrington model of this new standards book that she put out. And so that I do that there, and that's been incredibly fulfilling for me over the years, especially working with a person like Sarah who designed this program. So I'm so happy to be doing that. And then recently, in the past 2 years, I started teaching saxophone lessons at Manhattan School of Music, and that's been really wonderful. The students are really inspiring, and I learned so much from working with them. And I feel like I'm practicing to keep up with them and all this stuff, So those are my two things. And then sometimes I'll go, like I've been teaching a little bit at Jazz Campus in Switzerland lately, and then, which is a very hard and long commute. And but yeah, I love
I'll
teaching.
quit complaining then. Yeah,
I love teaching as long as there's like a lot of playing involved. I love, I'm not into the whole just talk for the whole lesson. I'm like, no, if you're coming in a lesson with me, we're playing for like most of the time.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Listener, beware if you contact her for lessons.
Yeah.
So you're going out on this solo tour tomorrow?
Yeah.
And then, so besides this, what else is on your agenda before I let you go here?
Oh yeah. So
what's coming up?
I'm actually going now to just play one solo concert in Switzerland, but I'm mostly teaching over there at the Jazz Campus, and then I'm playing some isolated shows with people in Paris and the Netherlands, because it's been starting to be impossible to bring your own band to different places in Europe. So I'm playing with friends. And then when I come back, I'll have March to really be preparing for this thing and teaching my students. And then I'm leaving like March 27th, which is when the record comes out. So
okay, great. Is there like a release show in the city or someplace else that listeners can check out?
Yeah, I'm playing at Roulette on April 7th, which is in Brooklyn. And yeah, I'm doing a double bill with Matt Mitchell, who is playing a solo set on piano, and that'll be insane. He's put out several solo records on piano that have been really inspiring to me. So I was like, do you want to do this double bill? And so he'll be there as well. And then I have that same week, I have like a listening party at this space that Civitella, the residency in Italy, they have an office space in New York. And so they offered me to do a listening party there with people and to ask and answer questions about the process and stuff. So
it's very cool.
Yeah.
Caroline, thank you for your time. The record is Fallows, out March 27th on Rope-A-Dope. Great to see you. Safe travels. And
thank you.
You said the show at Roulette is April 7th.
Yeah, April 7th. Yep.
Okay.
And that Q&A, in case you really want to hang and ask questions and stuff, that's April 9th.
Cool.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and be well.
Thank you.
Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Van Doren Reeds and Mouthpieces. Be sure and check out the Van Doren Advisory Studio in New York City for all your sound sculpting needs. Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Arlen's Good Beer in Bowling Green, Ohio.
Engineered by Marco Mendoza. Visit his website at engineeredbymarco.com. The theme music is Hide, Seek, Find from my record Beatitude, out on Tiger Turn.
Produced by David Bixler. Be sure and subscribe to Liner Notes wherever you find your podcasts. If you like what you hear, I ask that you consider supporting Liner Notes financially. You can do this by going to the Liner Notes tab at davidbixler.com. Thank you for your consideration.